Sudana.
Vacha Madhusudan. Sudana.
Anybody can read the translation, please?
No, you'll have to scroll down.
Yeah.
I can read it.
Yeah, please.
Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudan Krishna spoke the following words.
Okay. So now let's start looking at uh, the relationships between verses and between chapters. So whenever you study Bhagavad Gita should not be studied as a kind of book, as a kind of a novel, nor should it be studied from a pure poetry perspective. It is a philosophical discussion between two highly knowledgeable and elevated people. And it is a kind of a discussion that is happening in a poetry form. So neither should, just because Bhagavad Gita, the name word Gita comes, that means song comes, doesn't mean that one should appreciate only the poetic beauty of the scripture. Nor should it be looked at, just the kind of theory or philosophy, or from the perspective of, kind of a book written by somebody. It contains teachings, and these teachings Krishna is giving via the form of answers to Arjuna's questions. Now, so it is, as much as it is important to understand what Krishna is speaking, it is also important to understand what Arjuna asked, because of which Krishna gave some answer. If we do not know the question and we just try to read the answer, then we may lose the context. So that's why it is very much important to know that so and so verse Krishna has spoken. What is the context? Why is he speaking this one? And we have to link these verses with each other. So when the word Madhusudan is being used by Sanjay here in this particular verse, why is Madhusudan being used here? Why could he not use the word Krishna directly, or Bhagwan directly, or Vasudev? Why Madhusudan? So every word that has been spoken carries its own importance. Every verse relates with some of the other verse. That is how the context flows from one point to another point to another point. So when we are studying Bhagavad Gita, we should learn that from various perspectives, so that we learn the philosophy, exactly what Krishna wants to convey to us. Okay. So now when we link these chapters with each other, we see that Arjun sat down. Upavishat is the word used by Sanjay. So he describes how Arjun sat down. He put aside his bow and arrows, and he was very sorrowful, expressing his actions by sitting down. He expresses his desire not wanting to fight the war. So you can look at that incident in a manner wherein India-Pakistan cricket final World Cup is going on, and the first ball is about to get bowled, and the topmost batsman, say for example Virat Kohli, before even the first ball being bowled, Virat Kohli says, "I don't want to play." What will happen? Yeah. So that is this moment, that the topmost archer, that archer on whom the whole Pandav army depends upon, who can defeat people like Bhishma and Dronacharya, who are otherwise undefeatable. That archer is keeping the bow aside and saying, "I don't want to fight." Now, this is that moment. And now the Lord will start speaking. Okay. So, so now, when the conversation happened between Krishna and Arjun, at that time, Krishna did not say, "Okay, chapter 1 started. Oh, chapter 1 ended. Now I'm starting chapter 2. This is name this one." Yeah. So who do you think? So he spoke as, continuous flow, continuous conversation was there. So who do you think divided the Bhagavad Gita into 18 chapters and gave a name to it? What do you think? Who did that?
Was it Sanjay?
Okay. Who else do
We,
you think can do it?
Prabhuji, either Vyasdev ji or Ganesh ji, because he was writing it.
Yes, you are right. So it was Vyasdev who did that. And that is why you see at the start of every chapter, you see Atha, and at the end of every chapter, you see Iti, which marks the start and end of every chapter. Now, let's first look at the divisions of the second chapter. Okay. So when we study Bhagavad Gita, we have to study it analytically. First, the whole Bhagavad Gita gets divided in chapters. Every chapter has a theme, as a message is there. Every chapter is broken down in verses, and every chapter is grouped in sections. This section pertains to so and so answer, so and so topic. Second section pertains to so and so topic. That way, the first 10 verses of the second chapter, it is Krishna starts speaking. Arjun asks another doubt. That is the fifth argument that he doesn't want to fight. He surrenders to Krishna, and Sanjay marks the start of philosophical discussion between Krishna and Arjun. That is the first 10 verses. Then Krishna starts answering Arjuna's questions one at a time. So the first question, compassion, is answered from verse number 11 till 30. You don't need to memorize these numbers, but you just need to understand that there is a section, there is a division, and every section has a particular topic and theme. Then the second and third question is answered from verses 31 till 38. The fourth question partially is answered again in these verses also, but fourth question is answered partially in third chapter also. Then, after having spoken this knowledge at a certain level, which is a very primitive, a preliminary level, Krishna then takes us to the next level, and then he starts speaking the knowledge at a higher level, which is called as Buddhi Yoga. What is Buddhi Yoga? We will come to it, we will learn it. That is from verse number 39 till 53. And then Arjun again asks four more questions, which is in verse number 54. So from verse number 55 till 72, Krishna answers these four questions to him. And that marks the end of the second chapter. And as I mentioned in the message today, the second chapter is a summarization of the whole of Bhagavad Gita. Then what Krishna does, he takes one topic at a time and he elaborates that in various chapters. And that is how Bhagavad Gita will proceed. So it is very important to understand the second chapter in detail. So we will go say in detail in each and every verse on second chapter. But third chapter, we will reduce the detailing, and fourth, fifth, sixth, we will do it at a summary level, because the subject matter is very complex. Even if I explain, not everyone will understand, and a good amount of time will be spent. You will get bored also. And we have seen out of our experience in so many years, the dropout rate is highest when it comes to fourth, fifth, and sixth chapters. So that's why, to ensure that we remain interested in the topic, we will do it at only summary level. Now what has happened? Okay, so Arjun, it's meaning, okay, tam tatha krupaya avishtam. Let's go word by word. Krupaya meaning compassion. Avishtam is, overwhelmed with him. And tam meaning Arjun, meaning he is referring to. So he, after that, was overwhelmed by compassion. Ashru Purna Kul Akula Ikshanam. Ikshana is basically eyes. Purna is full. Ashru is tears. And his eyes were full of tears. Ashru Purna Kulekshanam. Vishidantam is lamentation. Vishidantam idam vakyam. Idam meaning now these words, these vakyam, words, sentences were spoken. Uvacha, spoken, Madhusudana. Who spoke? Madhusudan. So what does it mean? Basically, if you now combine all of this, that after sitting on that chariot, as was mentioned in the last verse of the first chapter, after sitting, after casting his bow and arrows aside, Arjun sat down, and after that, he was overwhelmed by compassion. His eyes were full of tears, and he was lamenting. After that, the following words, Uvacha Madhusudana, were spoken by the killer of the Madhu demon. Okay. Now, why is Krishna addressed as Madhusudan? Okay. Firstly, what does Madhusudan mean? Madhu is the name of a demon. Sudan meaning one who has killed somebody, one who is the killer. So the killer of Madhu demon is called as Madhusudan. Okay. So now, why Sanjay is speaking? He could have used the word Krishna directly, right? But he purposely uses it. What has happened in between the last verse of the first chapter and the first verse of the second chapter? That although it is not a technical end of chapter, but Dhritarashtra had a smile on his face and he saw that he will be able to win the war because the foremost archer of Pandav army has decided not to fight. And he thought now that I can win, meaning now that Arjun has been eliminated, I can win the war. So what Sanjay does is he brings him back to the ground, back to reality, stating that you cannot discard Krishna in this manner. This person is a killer of the Madhu demon, and in the way he killed the demon, Krishna will kill the demon like thoughts that have come to Arjuna's mind, and he will give him knowledge and he will make Arjun fight the war. So that is the significance of the word Madhusudan. So see, imagine, like people like Sanjay, who was just a charioteer, but he was also full of knowledge. The context was very well understood, and he could use the right words at the right place, and give encouragement or wherever required, discourage people as well, as much as necessary. Okay. Now, why this verse is important? For one more reason. There are many people who, especially who have not read Bhagavad Gita, these people, they misrepresent Arjun as a coward and saying that Arjun feared Kauravas, that's why he did not want to fight the war. Yeah. Now, how incorrect it is, we can see that the word, the tam tatha krupaya vishtam. So every verse is divided in two lines, and every line is divided further, the first half and the second half. So in the first half of the first verse, immediately after Arjun kept his bow and arrow aside, he is highlighting to Dhritarashtra that it is only because of compassion that he has decided not to fight. Do not come under any misunderstanding that Arjun is fearful of Kauravas. Who is talking? Sanjay, who can see the warfield by his own eyes. He is not somebody from the Pandav camp. He is not somebody who will lie to Dhritarashtra. And even if he were to lie, the outcome of the war should have been the reverse. If he was fearful, then he should have actually not won the war. You cannot contain your fear for 18 days and still continue killing people from the other side. So Sanjay is saying that it is only because of compassion that he has decided not to fight the war. So to say that Arjun was fearful can only be a matter of lack of knowledge. And as a matter of fact, Arjun had defeated the whole Kaurava army in the Virat war. The Virat war, if you remember, Arjun and other Pandavas and Draupadi were staying in a kind of incognito, not revealing their true identity. And that is when the one day Virat kingdom was invaded by Kauravas. There is a history to it. I'll not go into it. And Arjun single-handedly defeated Bhishma, Dronacharya, Krupacharya, Karna, Dushasan, Ashwathama, Duryodhan, and everybody single-handedly. So to say that Arjun was fearful is not appropriate. Now, Ashru Purna Kulekshanam. So we saw that from verse number 28, when Arjun started speaking and started putting up his reasons not to fight the war, various symptoms, bodily symptoms were described. Yeah. So he said, first, my limbs are trembling. Then my mouth has started drying up. My body is trembling. My hairs are standing on end. Gandiv bow is slipping from my hand. My skin is burning. Right. These are some symptoms which our body displays based on our mental condition. This is the seventh symptom that is being mentioned here, that the tears are flowing from the eyes. And why this is important? Because tears come out from the eyes. Eyes see something and they interpret something. That interpretation causes emotions, and emotions then can cause tears. Now, what your eyes see and how do you interpret depends on what is the level of knowledge one possesses. When I see um, a person reading a book, okay, and if I see it's Bhagavad Gita, and I can immediately understand that fine, the person is interested in reading spiritual knowledge. When I see somebody pickpocketing some money from somebody, I can immediately understand that it's a thief. But there can be situations where we can misunderstand. And only true knowledge can help us understand what exactly is the context, what is happening, and whether it is right or wrong. What Arjun did, he saw the people on the other side, he misunderstood them as their relatives, and then he decided not to fight the war, which was the cause of his lamentation, which was the cause of his tears. So, what we learn from this particular incident is the knowledge should be the primary factor based on which you understand a particular incident. It cannot be emotions. And that is why you will see Prabhupada is using a fantastic analogy here. Okay, let's read this particular purport. Material compassion, lamentation, and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self. That means these qualities are not applicable to a soul, they are applicable only to body. So it actually shows the ignorance of the awareness about soul. So compassion for the eternal soul is self-realization, which means if you are feeling that, I don't want to suffer, I don't want another person to suffer, but at the level of the soul, not just at the level of the body, then that is true self-realization. And we will see, we will go into detail about all of these points. Even if at this point of time it may not be so very well understood, no problem, we will go into detail. Okay, so I'll skip this sentence. No one knows where compassion should be applied. Compassion for the dress of a drowning man is senseless. Very important point. Yeah. A man fallen in the ocean of nations cannot be saved simply by rescuing his outward dress, that is the gross material body. Now, very important point. What Prabhupada is saying here is, let's say there is a person who is swimming in the ocean and you feel he is drowning and you go to him and you try to save him. But instead of saving that person, you save the dress of the person and you bring the dress to the shore and say, okay, I have saved this person. But that is actually not saving. That person got drowned few moments back. So that is not what saving is. So you need to actually bring back that person on the shore where we call it a saving. Similarly, taking compassion on the body of a person is okay if it is not bad, but it is not excellent. So you will see me speaking these statements quite often, especially in the first few chapters, that you have bad, you have good, and you have excellent. Bad is definitely bad. But when we appreciate good, it also always has to be in relation with bad. Okay. But good is actually the enemy of the excellent. So when we say that I am satisfied with good, it is good only when it is compared with the bad. But if you ask, let's say, for example, a student has a capability of scoring 100% marks in, say, maths, but he is saying that I am happy with good marks, that is, say, 80%. So 80% is good, it's not bad. Bad would be probably 40%. So just because he has scored more than 40, just because he has scored 80, and just because it is better than bad, doesn't mean it is the best. So there is best, which is excellent, there is good, and there is bad. So good is better than bad, but is the enemy of excellent. So taking compassion on the body of a person is not bad, but it is not excellent. We need to go one step above to take compassion at the level of the soul. And what exactly this means, we will see it over a period of next few verses. Especially once we reach verse number 30, many of these concepts will become clear. Okay, so let's move to the next verse. Any query here? No query?
No, Prabhuji.
Okay, so let's move to the second verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan
Bhagwan
Uvacha
Vacha
Kutastva Kashmalamidam
Utastva
Tasva
Kashmal Idam
Kashmalidam
Vishame Samupasthitam
Vishame
Sve
Samupastitam
Pustatam
Anaryajushtam Aswargyam
Anaraya
Anarya
Justam
Justam
Asarvagyam
Sarvargyam
Akirtikaram Arjuna.
Akriti
Kirtikaram
Karam
Arjuna.
Arjuna.
Garimaji, welcome. I didn't see you. Just now noticed it.
Thank you so much. I joined late. Sorry, I was in a meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much.
Anybody can read translation?
Yes, Prabhu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy. Hare Krishna.
Jai. So firstly, what is the first noticeable difference in this verse? Anybody?
Is it Shri Bhagwan? So we are
Exactly.
referring.
Exactly. So you saw when Sanjay spoke, it was written as what? Sanjay Uvacha, right? When Dhritarashtra spoke, it is written as Dhritarashtra said. And when Arjun said, it is Arjun here. But when the Lord speaks, it is Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Who did this? Who would have written this? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha? What do you think?
Vyas, Vyasdev
Vyas?
ji has
Yeah,
spoken and
yeah,
written by Ganesh ji.
yeah. So when Vyasdev writes Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, or let's say tomorrow I decide I will write Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, what is the difference between me calling Lord Krishna as Bhagwan and Vyasdev calling Lord Krishna as Bhagwan? There is a great difference, right? Vyasdev has compiled one Veda broken into four Vedas. Vyasdev wrote 18 Puranas. Vyasdev wrote Mahabharata. Vyasdev wrote 108 Upanishads. Vyasdev wrote many Samhitas also. So that person who has fantastic, huge quantity of knowledge is calling Lord Krishna as Bhagavan. So that means far more than an ordinary person calling Lord Krishna as Bhagwan. Yeah? Because him calling Lord Krishna as Bhagwan is backed up by huge amount of knowledge. Not like me calling. I may not have much knowledge, but Vyastev is writing. And when Vyastev writes, everybody else who has learned from whatever he has written cannot contest what Vyastev has written. So when Ganpati himself writes, meaning brings this into the written form, he also writes what Vyastev has written, and he acknowledges whatever Vyastev has written is right. That's why he writes what Vyastev tells him. So we will go into that story between Vyastev and Ganpati if I have not already spoken. Maybe next week I will speak about it. So Shri Bhagwan Uvacha. Now this Bhagwan Uvacha comes in 2.11 also, but there is a difference between both Bhagwan Uvacha. Although technically it is same, but the way the Lord was looked upon by Arjun is different. And we will see, we'll reach to verse number 7 and 8, we will see. That is the verse that causes the difference. Now another point, you see, let's say you have a friend. He is in a very difficult state, dilemma. He is crying. He is unable to decide what to do, and all in a very difficult state. And he is coming to you for guidance. You have a hour-long, 2-hour-long discussion with each other, and he is explaining all his problems to you. How would you react to him? What would be a natural reaction to him? What do you think, Manju?
First of all, you will, maybe tell him that, you know, bad times and good times come to everyone. So you need to start,
No, I'm not
really,
asking. I'm
no,
not asking what advice will you give. I'm just
no.
saying, how will you react to him? What will be your body language? Will you be sorrowful? Will you feel the pain that he's undergoing? Will you cry with him? Will you pat his back, stating,
Maybe
"Oh
I,
my, so bad that
maybe,
he." Huh?
yeah, maybe I will feel compassion. I
Yeah,
will feel bad that somebody is going through a bad phase right now.
correct. Yes, very right. Yeah, this is our natural reaction, right? Deepak Prabhu, what will you do?
Can you repeat question? Maybe just want to
So,
understand
so
again.
somebody who has a very big problem has come to you, a good friend of yours, and wanting your guidance. He's in a very difficult stage. He's crying and all that. He has had a very long discussion with you, has explained all his problems to you, and now it's your time to speak. How will you react to him? I'm not asking what advice will you give.
I will have empathy with him, Prabhu, right?
Correct, correct, correct.
Right. And
Fine, fine.
that's what
So,
will be the
yeah,
first
fine.
kind of thing, right?
Okay. Garimaji, what will be your reaction?
I honestly used to have the compassion or probably be in that pain and then start giving advice, but now I don't do that. I keep the problem aside and then address it, or probably ask within myself that what is the need of the hour, what I need to speak right now, as an ask within myself.
No, I'm not asking what
Yeah,
advice
but
will you
no,
give.
no, I don't. I don't now feel compassion, or I don't feel that pain right now when I
Okay.
I address to a situation.
So will you
That's why.
laugh at him? Will you laugh at that person?
No, no,
Okay. No, will you scold that person? What
no,
nonsense you are saying? Right. Okay.
no.
Okay. Now you can see, so you can mute yourself, Mataji. Thank you. So now you can see Lord Krishna. Okay. You saw how Arjun put up his questions, right? And you can also understand his mental situation. But how did Krishna react? He's saying, how have these impurities come upon you? Meaning he's calling all that what you're talking is out of impurity of mind. Yeah? They are not befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy. And when you see the next verse, you will be even further surprised as to how can the Lord, who is supposed to be compassionate to everybody, react in such a manner to his dearest friend Arjun, who is in such a deep trouble, dilemma. Mentally, he is so disturbed. So isn't it? Meaning that's the obvious stuff that will come to our mind, right? How can Krishna behave in such manner? Now, why does this happen? Any guess why Krishna would have done it? Just guesses.
I would relate this incident to something like, for example, our child who is very small gets hurt or gets into a tiff or a quarrel with his friend. Okay, and we all have gone through that stage and that age of life when you keep fighting with your friends or you fall down and you feel that this is the biggest problem in the life. So as a parent, we all have gone through and we'll consider it as like, oh, it's okay, you'll get through it. Inside, we'll be seeing that way. So Krishna being at a very heightened state of mind, he is the Lord. For him, Arjuna's problem is not something that is big. He's not, because he knows that Arjun is not seeing the problem from the other perspective, but is actually soaked in the problem. Okay. So that's the reason the Lord doesn't feel compassionate towards him. And that's what I feel. That's the reason he like we if a child comes crying to
Okay.
us and says, "Oh,
Okay.
we've got hurt on the knees" or something like that, then
Okay.
we know
Fine.
how to handle him. So Lord
Fine. Fine.
knows how to handle Arjun.
Okay. Fine. Okay. Manju Mataji, what's your thought around this?
So, what I think, the way I interpret it or think about it is, maybe he just wants to give, sort of ignore this weakness that he's suddenly seen, and he wants to bring him out of that state, and that's why he's being a little firm with him without, feeling
Why?
that.
Why is he becoming firm? Very, very valid point. He's purposely becoming firm with him. Why?
Maybe because he wants to, first of all, maybe pull him out of that state, and second, tell him that this is not the time for you to, sit and uh, go down the, in a negative way, but it's time to actually come up and show your strength and understand. I don't know. This is what I'm thinking. I
Okay,
could
fine.
be wrong.
Fine. I'll explain it. That's not exactly the reason, but no worries. We'll speak about it. Deepak Prabhuji, what's your thought?
Sorry, Prabhu. I just went for washroom. Can you repeat Prabhu questions?
Fine. Prabhu, in the interest of time, I'll just speak about it now because I want to do the next verse also. No problem. So what has happened now? Let's say when we want uh, to drink water, and okay, we generally boil the water, or let's say we want to cook the food. So until the water within the rice or that vessel is boiled completely and the rice is ready to be eaten, properly cooked, yeah, you cannot eat that. So you cannot leave that rice by just heating up the water to a say 90 degrees Celsius. That will not be sufficient. You have to heat it beyond its boiling point so that it boils, so that the rice can get cooked, so that you can eat. So what Krishna is doing is, we spoke about this point, right? Krishna wants to speak Bhagavad Gita, which is purposely the reason why he brought his chariot in front of Bhishma and Drona. Now Krishna has achieved what he wants, that these points, arguments should come from Arjun so that he gets an opportunity to speak. But one final step is remaining. So this is like whatever has happened until now is like rice water boiling up to 90 degrees Celsius. It's not sufficient to cook the rice. It's only good to heat the water. That one final step is surrender. Surrender, accept Krishna as the Guru, and then accept the knowledge provided by Krishna as the Guru. For that surrender to happen, it has to reach to that boiling point from 90 to 100. At this point of time, Arjun is at 90 degrees Celsius. So he is purposely instigating him by speaking few words by which Arjun will, his boiling point will rise. And we will see this in the next verse, what words he uses and how surprising it is for people like us to see, oh my goodness, your dearmost friend is in such a deep state and you are using such kind of words rather than helping him. But then there is a purpose behind it, and we will see that. Now, coming to this point, you can see Bhagwan has been used here. So, what does Bhagwan mean? Okay, so anything that ends with one in Sanskrit means the possessor of that something. So when we say Dhanavan, means the possessor of wealth. Bhagyavan means the possessor of good fortune. Similarly, Bhagavan, which is different from Bhagyavan, Bhagavan means the possessor of Bhaga. Bhaga meaning opulences. And there are 6 types of opulences. And who has given this term? It is Parashar Muni. Anybody knows who Parashar Muni is? He is the father of Vyasdev.
Vyasdev Maharaj.
Perfect, perfect. So father of Vyasdev, Parashar Muni, he is the same person who wrote astrology, the science of astrology. And he has given this word Bhagwan. And what does this mean? He says there are 6 types of opulences: richness, that is wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. These are the 6 type of opulences. And he says that one who possesses all these opulences and in full, not even a percent less, is Bhagavan. And we will, when we go further, we will look at how Krishna possessed all of this: richness, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Now, Bhagwan is the term which is not used technically and even scripturally for neither Narayan, Lord Shiva, Brahma, anybody. It is only used for either Vishnu or Krishna. When Brahma himself uses, in the Brahma Samhita, he says, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. He calls Ishvara Parama Krishna. Ishwar meaning controller, Parama meaning the supreme controller. We all are controllers. You are controller of your body. I am controller of my body. I am controller of my family, that way. But we are not supreme controller. We don't control each other's bodies. We don't control the government. We don't control the world. Yeah. But Krishna, Brahma says, he is a Parameshwar. He is the supreme controller, controller of everybody and everything. His body is made up of Sat, Chit, and Ananda. And Anadiradir Govinda. There is nothing before him. There is nothing after him. He is the all in all. He is the cause of all causes. Sarva Karana Karanam. We'll go deeper into all of these subsequently. There is one word, Aryan, that has come. So the translation of this one is one who knows the value of life. It is not the European theory of Aryan, and that was anyway a kind of a incorrect theory that was propagated. But the one who knows a value of life is called Arya, and one who doesn't know is called as Anarya. Kutastva Kashmalamidam. So why Krishna is surprised? Krishna is Kutasva, where from these impurities have come? So he is saying that such kind of impurities are not expected from a person like you who comes from a civilized class called as Aryans. Okay. So he was deviating from his prescribed duties. He was declining to fight despite being a Kshatriya. This is like an act of cowardice, although not exactly coward, but deviation from duty is not what is expected from Arjun. That's why Krishna is expressing surprise. Where from this has come to you? Anarya Jushtam Aswargyam. So Anarya, we saw what does it mean? Aswargyam meaning he is saying that if you perform these activities, you will not be able to reach to heavenly planets. And why heavenly planets? Because Kshatriyas used to fight in the war with the expectation that they will, after losing that current body, they will go to heaven and enjoy over there. So many Kshatriyas used to be inspired by heavenly pleasures, and that's why they used to take participate in the war wholeheartedly. Now, if you are okay, can I do the next verse? Won't take much time, but maybe by 9:10 we should be able to finish if you are okay.
Sure.
Garimaji, you are okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So let's read verse number 3. Klaibyam masma gamaha partha
Laibhyam
Klaibyam
masama gama
masmagamaha
partha
partha
naitatvayyupapadyate
naitattvai
naitattvai
upadyate
upadyate
shudram hrudaya daurbalyam
udram
Shudram
hridaya
hridaya
daurbalyam
daurabalyam
yaktvottishtha parantapa.
yaktotishtha
tattva
parantapa.
parantapa.
Translation, anybody?
O son of Partha, do not yield to these degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O, o chastier of the enemy.
Chastiser of the enemies. Yeah. So now Arjun is the son of Lord Indra. He himself is a great warrior. Indra. He has had many fights with lot of demons and he has become victorious, right? And he is the king of heavenly planets. So Krishna is expressing his surprise to say that a person of such a high birth, how can he, behave like just a family member of a Kshatriya family? A member of a Kshatriya family need not have the same spirit as an actual Kshatriya. So he's saying it is called as a Kshatra Bandhu. So he's saying you are behaving like a Kshatra Bandhu, meaning just that I am related to you because you are Kshatriya, I am also Kshatriya, but I don't have a behavior like a Kshatriya. He's saying, how can you behave like a Kshatra Bandhu? So that's why he is using these difficult words. Now, Klaibya, you imagine impotence. Already Arjun has undergone 1 year of his life as an impotent person. And then Krishna further is pinching him to say that where has this impotence come from you? Why are you behave like an impotent person? You are succumbing to your impotence. That is, lack of manliness. Now, Kshatriyas by nature are proud. They are very, having a high fighting spirit and they purposely do not have weaknesses and all that. And Krishna is now, pinching him purposely to say that, oh, you are impotent, you are weak, you are mentally this, you are that, and all that. This does not befit you because a person like you of your caliber having such kind of impotence, meaning not physically but in a mental manner, it does not befit you. Now you have shudram hrudaya daurbalyam. Imagine shudra being called to a person like Arjun, and to also say that you have a petty weakness of heart, hrudaya daurbalyam. So now uh, and he's saying give it up. Tyaktva tishtha. Uttishtha is to get up, tyaktva is to give up. Saying give up this petty weakness of heart and get up. O Parantap, chastiser of enemies. Parantap is purposely used here to indicate to Arjun that you are not an ordinary person. You have undergone this situation of wars many times and you have chastised your enemy. So this is again the same scenario. Okay. So in various manners, Krishna condemns Arjuna's lamentation. So Kashmalam was used in as a word used in the previous verse, meaning the contamination. Okay. Where has it come from? Kutastva Kashmalamidam. Anarya, meaning it's not like a behavior like an Aryan who understands the value of line. Klaibya, in this verse we saw it means impotence. And finally, Kshudram Hrudaya Daurbalyam. You are like, you are having a weakness of heart. It does not befit you. Now, why this is important? So let's just understand in a very summary manner. So whenever a person has a problem, he attempts to resolve the problem. But sometimes certain people apply certain methods to resolve a problem. Sometimes other people apply other methods. So now when a child has a problem, what he will do? He will cry, he will attract the attention of the parents, and the child will want the parents to solve their problem. But when a matured individual comes across a problem, he will analyze what is the problem. Can I solve it by myself? How can I solve it? Do I need somebody's help? Do I need to do some further analysis, R&D, and whatever it is? Can I by myself and then solve it? If he cannot, then maybe he will employ other people, other mechanisms, and then he will solve it. So everybody approaches problems in a different manner depending on their level of maturity. So in same way, spiritual maturity also makes a difference. And based on the spiritual maturity, okay, which is above the material level, different people react to problems differently. So when a Brahman comes across the problem, the Brahman is known by a saying, a verse called as Brahma Janati iti Brahman, meaning one who understands the spiritual truth is known as Brahman. And what the Brahman does, they use their scriptural knowledge and intelligence to solve their problems. A Kshatriya, when he comes across a problem, because they are skilled in administration, warfare, and they are very strong as well, they use these administrative skills, their strength, and the warfare, the power, and their skills in the military skills to solve their problems. Vaishya, when they come across a problem, they apply their business tactics, they employ their money, their business acumen, and all that, and then they try to solve the problem using that tools and resources. But a Kshudra uh, is defined by a verse called as Shochati iti Kshudra. Shocha meaning lamentation. The one who continuously laments, irrespective of what the problem is called as a Kshudra. So Akshudra tries to solve the problem by lamentation, and they cannot think of a constructive solution. So that is why Krishna is saying that you are behaving like a Kshudra, you are lamenting upon something on which you do not have a control. You are compassionate about something which you should not be compassionate about it. The petty weakness of heart that has been developed has to be given up, and you need to become strong, get up and fight. So now there are quite a few points to be spoken about it. I'll just uh, speak about it in a summary manner. If you want me to go into detail, we can do it in the next class also. So tyakpa uttishta, the word has been used, right? Why is it important? Because at the end of the first chapter, in the last verse of the first chapter, and Sanjay uses the word upavishat. Upavishat is sat down. So this get up, which means uttishta, this get up is applicable from both perspectives. Get up is physically get up, and also get up from a spirit perspective. Get up, give up your weakness of heart and get up. And so rise to the occasion and fight. So this Uttishta would have been appropriate even if Arjun were standing on the chariot and not seated, because it would mean that he was told by Arjun to get up from a spirit, to rise in the spirit, that perspective. So now we have to think, how do we apply this verse in our life? When we come across some problems, what do we do? Do we give up? Do we lament? Or do we think of a solution? And what could be that solution? So this is a kind of a homework for ourselves. Think about it, and uh, maybe we can discuss next week. So Arjun was addressed by Krishna as Partha. Partha is what? The son of Pritha. Pritha meaning Kunti. Her previous name was Pritha. So why Krishna is addressing that way? Because Arjun comes from the lineage of Kunti Mata. And Kunti Mata comes from a very a lineage which is basically very strong Kshatriyas. They fought many wars. They have, and they have won the wars. Even Kunti Mata herself is, meaning she lost her husband when the children were very young. And despite that, she raised all of them in a perfect manner. They faced a lot of troubles and calamities for all the family members, but despite that, they rose up from the occasion, became very strong, and then moved on ahead. So he is highlighting it to her that you are a son of not an ordinary lady. You are a son of Prutha, Kunti Mata. Get up, O Partha. So each and every word in each and every verse of each and every chapter in the whole of Bhagavad Gita has a beautiful meaning. So when we study Bhagavad Gita, you should study to such an extent, go into so depth that you should feel that every day you are learning something new. So Mahadev, Bhagwan Shiv, Shankar, he reads Bhagavad Gita every day. Okay, I'll give the context later how where it is written. But he reads Bhagavad Gita every day and he is mesmerized by the new meaning he uncovers every day. So imagine if Bhagwan, Shankar Bhagwan is, coming up with new meaning, what are we? We would be the 100 of lifetimes may not be sufficient to study Bhagavad Gita to that depth, to that level. Hare Krishna. So I think I'm done with this particular verse. Anybody has any question? Is it too much of philosophy or is it understandable?
It is definitely understandable and you're explaining it very well. But for us to absorb the, entire thing itself is quite overwhelming sometimes.
Okay. Okay. It is okay, even if everything cannot be understood. What we actually need to take back is the conclusion. And that conclusion we will reach to when we start going into Bhakti Yoga, the 7th chapter, then you will appreciate the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga. And then why are we studying all of this basically? Especially if you look at it from Karma Yoga, Gyan Yoga, Dhyan Yoga perspective, we want to understand these yoga systems to understand the drawbacks in these yoga systems. We do not want to implement these yoga systems. We just want to understand the drawback so that we can appreciate the beauty of Bhakti Yoga, which will start in 7th chapter. Once we start understanding Bhakti Yoga, then you will want to even implement that in your life. It is so encouraging. That is why these chapters, third, especially third, fourth, fifth, sixth, they are a bit difficult to understand, difficult to implement as well. But they need to be understood only so that we can compare it with Bhakti Yoga. That's all. Second chapter, it's actually not so difficult to understand. Second chapter is beautiful. You'll be able to correlate it with yourself very well. It will start becoming complex from third chapter onwards. But if you are thinking, if you feel that I am going too much into depth and not required, please do let me know. I will curtail this one and we will try to make it a bit summary level so that it doesn't become overwhelming. Let me know if you feel that way comfortable. Yeah.
Prabhuji, pace is good, and I think detail is also good enough. So
Okay, fine. Garimaji, you think am I going too much into detail or you think this is okay?
No, Sachinji, it's all good. All
Okay.
great.
Manju Mataji, let me know if you feel we need to go further or you feel that we can take a step back from going into detail.
No,
My
I
object.
think this space is perfectly fine
Okay.
because for me, who's not read it so much, all this explanation is actually giving a lot of clarity. So I
Okay.
love the pace at which we are going.
Fine. Perfect. Thank you so much for the feedback. I'll maintain the same pace. So we will try and cover around 3 to 4 verses maximum per class. And this may require, the second chapter may require around 3 months approximately to finish. So Hare Krishna, thank you so much. See you next week.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare
Thanks a
Krishna.
lot.